Every Sunday at 5 p.m. Studio B for Strange Universe. Every Sunday for Strange Universe.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
Are you a fan of rock and roll? Does it get your feet tapping and your hands clapping? Then be sure to check out Crypt Rick's Rock and Roll Hour every Friday night, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern and Standard Time on Studio B right here at RevolutionRadio.com, where we get down and talk all things rock.
This is the People's War. It is our war. We are the all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part, can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, by all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. You've got to undertake to let people run it, to let people own it. That unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well, now you got it.
Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me.
Revolution Radio.
You're tuned to something different. No scripts, no limits, just pure, unfiltered thought. This is Free Association. Your host, Dennis Barker, brings you the ideas, the questions, and the tangents that matter. Joined by the sharp wit and insight of Karen and the one, the only Dr. Lenny Time. 3 minds, 2 hours, 0 guardrails. Free Association, because the best conversations never stay on topic. Join Dennis, Karen, and Dr. Lenny Time Thursdays at noon Eastern, Studio B, here on Revolution Radio.
Spice expands consciousness. The spice is vital to space travel.
you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future. And in here, the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us. Because we are going to endeavor to treat, cure, and prevent the disease of ignorance. This is the voice of the revolution. And we are streaming to you live with our good friends at Revolution Radio on freedomslips.org, the #1 listener-supported network in the entire country. We're also streaming to you live on several video platforms all at the same time. The miracle of technology, Rumble and YouTube and Twitch, X, DLive, Foxhole, and Truth Refugee. Everywhere where good podcasting can be found live and free. No paywalls here. It doesn't cost you a dime to listen to this program or the archives anywhere. They're on X and everywhere. I believe Big D 1955 was the first one in the chat room tonight. There are a lot of people in the chat room. Let me just hit some highlights here. Stanley Mays is here. Deborah Pollard is here. This is good. 86 Troll, Bosk Bernie, Stanley Mays, Spartan Roger, Amity 223. It just goes on and on. Let's see. We got some other regulars. Plant is here. J. Scott Weller's here. Distant Sight is here. S. Barnett. I think I saw, did I see Bayonet here? Nope. Okay. They'll be in later, I'm sure. And let's check Foxhole really fast. We don't have anybody in Foxhole yet. It's a slow night over there. Hopefully they'll start filling it in. So, wow, what a week, huh? I mean, I've got to start having this show more often. Now, tomorrow morning at 9:30, I'm going to be on Awake Nation. Normally, I'm only on Monday mornings at 9:30, but tomorrow morning at 9:30, I'm going to be on Awake Nation. They had a cancellation. I was asked to fill in, so no problem. I'm going to fill in. It's a totally different daytime audience, but if you want to tune in, the link is down below. If you go to the homepage of brooksagnew.com, scroll down at the bottom, you'll see Awake Nation. Click on that link, and it'll take you right there at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Or you get there a little bit early. It doesn't matter. There are hosts on before me and after me, and they're all good. They're all good. What is that? Yes. I don't know if it's random. Okay, Mark. We're on Studio A and Studio B. So on Wednesdays, we're on Studio B, and on Sundays, we're in Studio A. So we cover the whole gamut of Revolution Radio audience. 4 million people strong, all out there listening on TalkStream Live and Orange Radio and iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio. They're everywhere. They're everywhere, all over the world. And we get mail from everybody. We get a lot of business from them too, and we appreciate our Revolution Radio listeners very, very much. We have a couple thousand that watch on the video. The rest of everybody listens by audio. Nice to have you down there in Houston, Lonnie. Let's see. What other questions before I get into the news here? No, I'm not really going to talk about the assassination attempt anymore. It's old news. I don't really know what to make of it, except that, again, the Secret Service has really disappointed. Fortunately, very fortunately, no one was killed. Not even the shooter. The shooter's in custody, and hopefully he is giving up everything as they apply their pressure to him. Poor boy has just given his life up, just forfeited it for nothing. Just for nothing. But that's what happens when the left keeps applying this propaganda nonstop, all day, all night. Eventually, the insane begin to act on those thoughts. You want me to comment on, Distant Sight wants me to comment on the heavy use of AI and its perpetual unreliability. Well, that's it. I mean, we're making a big deal out of artificial intelligence, but have you used it? I have. I've used it extensively. I find it lacking. I've had it make websites for me. I've had it write software for me. I've had it try to correct grammar in chapters that I've written. It's terrible. It's awful. It can't do the job. It's like a very smart student that can't follow instructions. You ever have one of those? Very, very smart, very capable student, and you say, look, you need to do this, this, and this, and then put these together and bring it back to me. And they bring it back to you, and it's a crayon drawing. It's nothing like, what you asked for. And it's biased, and it lies, and it's unreliable. We don't use it. We don't use it. Even in the technical stuff, we have a lot of complex bookkeeping with the import business. And it isn't something a person couldn't learn. A person of maybe above average intelligence could learn it. AI can't make head or tails of it, cannot do the work. They can't do the work. If it doesn't fit a pattern and do the same thing every single time, they're lost. They can't think on their feet. They can't say, oh, this is what they meant, or, oh, this is their actual mailing address, even though they put the address in all backwards. They don't know what to make of that. It's horrible. I don't use it. So am I worried about it? No, not really. The faster AI gets, the more capable AI gets, the worse it gets. I wouldn't let it do battle plans. I wouldn't let it do water treatment. I wouldn't let it do anything except very mundane, repetitious work. Do the same thing every single time and don't change. It's something that would bore a human being of average intelligence to death. That's what you let AI do, but don't let them think. They just can't do it. Yes, I get it, Gramanon. Used AI to help you write books. I get that. But you know what? It's crap, because you give it the theme, you give it the idea, the main characters, and now write me a chapter. It's terrible. And okay, have me write it 4 times and you get 4 different versions. I am a prolific writer. I have 13 books in print, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pages in print. I have over 10,000 technical papers in print. Sometimes we make grammar errors. We leave quotation marks off. We don't put a comma in. We put a colon when we should have a semicolon. We use the wrong form of there, or the wrong form of here, or the wrong form instead of from, something that, proofreaders miss all the time. So I said, okay, let's have AI do it. Let's have artificial intelligence read this chapter and find all the grammar errors in it, wrong words, wrong punctuation, and fix it. I send them, a typical 9,000 word chapter, okay? A typical 9,000 word chapter, maybe a 6,000 word chapter. By the time I get it back, it's about 972 words. They've completely changed the story, and they totally missed the point. So I write back. I say, you totally missed the point. I didn't want you to shorten it. I didn't want you to give me a Cliff Notes version of the chapter. I wanted you to fix the punctuation. And you know what it writes back to me? We can't do that at this time. Yeah, I'm just telling you, it sucks. Don't have AI write you anything, because I'll be able to spot it. Anybody could spot it right away. At best, it's a college freshman, at best. That's right. 2 weeks to flatten the curve. That's right. And I don't think they're going to get there. They could spend billions of dollars, and they're not going to get AI to do anything other than just repetitious work. That's right, Flippy. Sunday, I'm on Studio A, and Wednesday, I'm on Studio B. Tonight, we're on Studio B. So it's the red one. on my faceplate, it's the red one. Just setting up a show. Setting up a show takes 15 minutes. All the, interfaces that we have to do to make it work. And it's way simpler now with Rumble Studio. As you can see, we just have this one faceplate. but we used to use OBS. Now, OBS is a very, very complex piece of software, very powerful, but there aren't two people in the country that really know how to use it. It's a great piece of software, but we just simplified our whole life by going to Rumble Studio. And, simplicity is the crown of genius sometimes. And so, you just basically want to watch me do the show. Okay, watch me do the show. We did it for 10 years, audio only. And then, Rush Limbaugh invented podcasting, and people wanted it. They wanted to see us where we were and what we were doing. And they don't really watch us anymore. They just kind of put us in the background, behind their drawings or their spreadsheets or whatever, speed it up to 1.25 so they can get through the program quicker. And we cover it that way. Oh, we're on A right now? Okay, well, see, that's what I know. See how bad AI is? It's bad. It's really bad. Oh, yeah. The sound on Rumble is better than YouTube, I think, to me. The thing about YouTube is, and we use those files when we send out our newsletter, after you get to 1 hour on YouTube, the resolution goes down to 480. So if you have over a 60-minute podcast, which we do, we have a 2-hour podcast, they broadcast at 480 resolution. It's kind of sucky, but that's what they have to do to protect their bandwidth. Good. Thank you, Alm3, for that 5x5. Okay, let's talk about a PPP loan fraud. There was so much of it out there. I had friends that said, "Oh, Brooks, you got to apply for a PPP loan. You can get $25,000 and they'll forgive the loan." I went, "Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that." The Biden administration improperly funneled more than $90 million in forgiven Paycheck Protection Program loans to Planned Parenthood and Planned Parenthood affiliates. $90 million. And this is despite the organization being deemed ineligible for the funds. Now, this has been uncovered that the payments as part of a broader push to investigate alleged fraud tied to COVID-19 relief programs and recover taxpayer money. As you know, the global syndicate ordered all middle-class businesses to close. The global multi-billion-dollar corporations, they could stay open, they could run, they could drive their trucks, they could deliver their freight, open their restaurants, all that stuff. But Ma and Pa and all the middle-class businesses had to close. All the churches had to close, all the gymnasiums, all the restaurants, all the small factories, everything had to close. And so in order to stay open, some people had to apply for these PPP loans, these payroll protection loans. If, like, let's say the place had 25 employees, which is, I think, what you had to have to qualify. You have 25 employees and you're not going to fire them all. You're going to keep them on, but of course, business is way lower than it is because no one can afford to buy anything, right? So you keep your business open anyway and try to obey all the rules of the local Gestapo. And otherwise they'll come in and shoot the place up and drag you off to jail and force vaccinate you. And you decide to keep making your payroll. So the PPP loans were to come in and help make that payroll. And I know people that are in business and stayed in business during the lockdown, and they wouldn't have made it. They wouldn't have made it without the PPP loans. They wouldn't have made it. But these big corporations, these corporations that do $500 million in business, they're not supposed to be getting that money. And even worse than that, they tried to obscure the fact that they had done this illegally by using the code word Benghazi. What does Benghazi have to do with Planned Parenthood? Absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. So Joni Ernst is backing the SBA Fraud Enforcement Extension Act, which would give federal investigators more time to pursue pandemic-related fraud cases. It's not a small amount of money. It's $500 billion. It's $500 billion. The time to go after those fraudsters is running out. They don't want the statute of limitations to expire. We want to allow additional time for the DOJ to do their investigations, to go after the fraudsters and reclaim the American taxpayer money that went out the door fraudulently during Virtual Joe and his gang of criminals' reign of terror. We also know that after the SBA Biden officials met, planned, and strategized over this secret Benghazi code word that they had put together, keeping the White House involved, approximately $90 million in Planned Parenthood, SBA, PPP loans, and interest on the loans were forgiven. They didn't have to repay them. They were loans, but they were actually gifts. They were gifts. And of course, Planned Parenthood turned around and gave some of that money to the Democrats, $50 million of it. $50 million of it to down ballot campaigns. So the DOJ is initiating an investigation, and if they find anybody at all that was responsible for this, signed off on it, perpetrated it, made it happen, is 3 years in jail. Is 3 years in jail. Big disruptor for your federal career if you're showing a 3-year prison sentence for fraud. Early in the pandemic, the SBA under President Trump's first administration sent more than $80 million in PPP loans to Planned Parenthood and its affiliates after they self-certified as eligible. And that same month, the SBA's top lawyer, Peggy Hamilton, wrote an email to agency leadership with the subject line, Benghazi PPP decisions. The context suggested that Benghazi was a code word for Planned Parenthood. In one direct message, Ms. Hamilton seemed to reference the code, writing, "Can I schedule a meeting so we can decision Benghazi?" "Yes, let's talk Benghazi," the staff replied. So that's not something that you're allowed to do under federal law. It's against the law, and people are going to go to jail over this. I hope they all do, and they all serve 3 years for every infraction. All right. Now, this is a pretty cool story. I just think, sometimes people can give you the coolest gifts. Like they just think of that, that one thing that you never thought of, you didn't even know existed, and they bring it to you, and you just go, you know what? That's about the coolest thing anyone's ever done for me. Well, when you're President Trump, it's got to be pretty cool. It has to be pretty cool to be something Trump would never think of, or Trump couldn't afford, or Trump hasn't seen before, or left on the shelf before, right? Well, he was presented a present by the King of England. And it was a ship's bell from the Second World War, Anglo-Australian submarine HMS Trump by King Charles III at the White House banquet. The key set piece event of the state visit to the United States by King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla, the state dinner at the White House saw the king and his host present Donald Trump and his host, President Donald Trump, speak of the unique bond between the British and American peoples and the giving of a unique gift. So after a formal event, this was cranked up a notch again by the dinner being in white tie, the most formal Western dress code, a notch up from the dinner jacket or tuxedo, which has been unusual for U.S. state banquets in recent years. Now, giving a speech of thanks before dinner was served, King Charles III also paid tribute to the American security services, thanking them for preventing a shooting, which happened on Saturday. Noting this attempt on the president's life and others that preceded it, the king said Trump's response to the repeated assassination attempts is phlegmatic, old school British, keep calm and carry on. The speech was peppered with jokes and humor, including the monarch making note of the present state of the East Wing, for the ballroom construction project with the quip, "I'm sorry to say we British, of course, made our own small attempt at real estate redevelopment of the White House in 1814. You'll remember they burned it down during the War of 1812. So presenting a personal gift to the president, King Charles unveiled a highly polished Admiralty pattern brass bell. This is very cool. Speaking of submarine alliances, there was one particular sub launched from a UK shipyard in 1944 that served for the majority of her life attached to the 4th Submarine Squadron in Australia, playing a critical role during the war in the Pacific. Her name, the HMS Trump. So tonight, Mr. President, I am delighted to present you as a personal gift the original bell that hung on the conning tower of your valiant namesake. May it stand as a testimony to our nation's shared history and shining future. And should you ever need to get a hold of us, just give us a ring." President Trump stood to admire the bell and responded, "It's so beautiful." HMS Trump was a Triton-class diesel-electric sub laid down in 1942 and commissioned in 1944 and sank several Japanese ships in the Pacific. After the war, it served with the Royal Australian Navy and may have had a ship's motto of "I triumph." I triumph. That was the ship's motto. In the president's speech, he returned to the themes explored earlier in the day in his landmark White House lawn address to the royal couple. And this is kind of interesting because once you see the history and you watch King Charles' reaction at a certain point in this speech, because as you know, the royalty of Britain, they got their authority came through Germany. Their authority came through, the Bismarck that way, right? They didn't get their royal command from the Anglo-Saxons. Anglo-Saxons were the Isaac's son, which was the Scots and the Irish. So it's only natural that Americans begin this commemoration by paying tribute to the transcendent bond that we share with the nation that Thomas Jefferson himself called our mother country. From English towns and Scottish hills, Welsh mountains and Irish villages, a people unique in history sailed across the mighty Atlantic to settle and civilize this continent in the name of God, King, and country. Now you have to understand that these ships, these first ships that left, yes, they were commissioned by the crown, but it was the poor. It was the poorest people that couldn't wait to get away from the crown that got on the boat and came to America. And when they came to America, they claimed the land not in the name of the king. Oh, they were given the land in the name of the king, but they claimed the land for themselves. They hacked out everything out of the wilderness and almost died several times in the process. They called it New England, and they meant that very literally. The first Americans saw themselves as free men, carrying forward the central liberties and ancient rights of the Anglo-Saxons, the Scots, and the Irish, into this new and beautiful world. In the eyes of America's founders, our War of Independence was fought not to reject this heritage, but to reclaim it and perfect it. As the founding father George Mason wrote, "We claim nothing but the liberty and privileges as Englishmen in the same degree. And if we had still continued among our brethren in Great Britain, the Declaration of Independence was a miracle for the ages. There had been nothing like it ever in the history of the world." Really, the founding fathers changed the future. No prophet, no seer, no revelator, nobody ever foresaw the birth of America. Nobody saw the development of America. Nobody saw the greatest, most powerful nation in the world with freedom and liberty as its base in any scripture anywhere. This was built by man. Man chose a new future, and they fought for it, and they won it. And although the political bonds between the United States and Great Britain were dissolved by force and a lot of blood, they thought on July 4th, 1776, the more powerful strands of memory, culture, and identity proved unbreakable in any conflict and grew into a friendship unlike any other on earth. These are words that President Trump said. They're not words that I typically support, because ever since that day, Britain has been trying to take down America. They're still trying to take down America. And I think the facts are beginning to line up to support my assumption or my assertion. This war that we're going through right now with Iran, that war's not with Iran. That war is with Britain. Britain has controlled Iran for 100 years. They're the ones that put the Shah in place. They're the ones that put the mullahs in place. They're the ones that made the deals and controlled the lifeblood of the world for the last 56 years. And they're the ones that I believe are giving the orders to the mullahs. Don't you dare, no matter what you have to do, don't give up that uranium. If you give up that uranium, they're going to do a nuclide spectral analysis on it, and then they're going to discover what reactor it came from, what Westinghouse reactor it came from, and it's going to lead right to Hillary Clinton, and it's going to lead right to James Comey, and it's going to lead right to the British Empire. So when we talk about that bond, be careful what you say and what you claim. Crusaders of over 1,500 years ago said the men who planted the American flag on the moon carried in them the same hunger for adventure and achievement as those who raised the Union Jack above Antarctica and carried the St. George Cross all around the globe. That's not what they said 1,500 years ago, but the Crusaders of a millennia ago. He continued, he said, history has known no more powerful force than the combination of American patriotism and British pride. It's true. British Empire, which began here in America, certainly did not end there. The sons and daughters of the British Isles went on to found more countries and spread more civilization than any nation before. They built an English-speaking world upon which the sun never sets and provides an example to which free people shall always turn. The free or the ones under the crown? They're two separate things now, aren't they? The state visit continues today. King and Queen are now due to travel to New York, where they will attend a memorial event for the September 11th attack with Mayor Ma'am Danny. And on Thursday, we'll visit events celebrating the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence in Virginia. Kind of sticks in their craw a little bit. All of this could have been ours, of course. That's what they're thinking. And if you listen to Prometheus, you know how deep and wide and dark this plot by the British Empire to take down the United States has been. It's been a long, long battle for them. All right, just let me check the chat rooms one more time here. So Willie Fix-It's in there and Mad Hat. All hail King Trump. Come on. Willie says, I live in New England. It's not as good as it once was. True enough. Time to talk to the bees. England's done. Oh, yeah. England is Islam. Okay, let's get back to it here. I'm going to get back to Rumble where I can see my other chat room. There we go. Whatever. You guys are silly. one of the things that we've become aware of, I have discussions with people all the time, and they think that, Trump having the smallest federal government of any president in over 100 years, cutting federal employees by 285,000, I think, a huge number, and lowering the federal payroll budget. Doesn't even scratch the surface of the federal expenditures. But it does. About 23% of the federal budget goes to federal employees. Yes, Social Security and Medicaid, that's all big too. Defense is about 9%. Nothing really earth-shaking there. But federal employees, it's a bunch. So, you know who James O'Keefe is, right? He runs a place called the O'Keefe Media Group now. It used to be Veritas. And he went undercover and recorded Jason Hermes. He's the vice president of content sales and partnerships for Fox Weather under Fox News Media. And he was captured saying that he was using company funds, like his company credit card, for personal strip club visits and falsifying expense reports. That's not that uncommon, okay? I've worked for bosses before, and we've come back from business trips, and we're riding together in the same car. After we get back to the airport, we're coming back to town and picking up his car at the parking lot of the plant. And we stop at a, place to get gas, a place where you would get gas. And he bought 6 cartons of cigarettes, not packs, but cartons. It's still expensive. And he put that on his company credit card. And I didn't say anything about it. It wasn't my place to, but it was clear that he was using the company credit card for personal expenses, and they were writing it off. They were paying it just like he had a real expense. But Mr. Hermes is seen on hidden camera boasting about overseeing some $90 million in annual business, claiming it made him untouchable. You know how people get. They get to drinking and they get to bragging. It's the best job because I'm a celebrity around all of it, but nobody knows me. It's like winning the lottery. Regarding his use of the Fox corporate card, Hermes indicated, you could take this Fox credit card, walk into a strip club, literally, and spend $4,000. Go to your corporate manager and they will sign it and pay it off. Well, that's what the client wanted. When asked if the practice involved clients or hosts, he replied, no, we would just do it ourselves and lie on the expense reports. No one asked a question. When I'm bringing in $90 million, no one's gonna effing say a word to me. It's still like that because it's media. It's nobody's money. So O'Keefe said this directly violates Fox Corporation's standards of business conduct, which demands rigorous accuracy and honesty in our financial records and accurate and complete information. False entries undermine public filings and betray shareholder trust. It may also violate U.S. Tax Code Section 274, which disallows deductions for entertainment expenses like strip clubs, and raises issues of accurate financial reporting. No deduction shall be allowed for an activity generally considered to constitute entertainment, amusement, or recreation. In September of 2024, Mr. Hermes joined Fox Weather after having served as vice president of content marketing sales at the Weather Channel. When contacted for comment, he said, buzz off. Now, I listen to Fox's news because I think the info babes are beautiful. And 50% of the time their reporting is accurate. If you really want 100% accurate or 98% accurate, you need to tune into American Free Radio. That's why we tuned into Rush Limbaugh for all those years, because he was 99.8% accurate. And we endeavor to be accurate as well with the stuff that we report. We vet everything. And when we see examples of leadership like this, who are submitting expense reports and basically living the high life, $50,000, $60,000 a year in extra benefits that are just written off on the company credit card, it pisses me off. And I don't like to see it. I know you don't like to see it. Yeah, that's right, Tatanka Dave. The sun never sets on the British Empire. And it was that way. And you know, when the colonists said, let's declare independence, everybody else at the table was like, are you effing crazy? You realize that they'll have 35,000 battle-hardened troops here in a week? In 3 weeks, they'll wipe us out? Yeah, we're aware of that. You realize that they have an endless supply of guns and cannons, and they could sit offshore and bomb our forts, and we can't do anything about it. Yep. We're aware of that too. They fought for it, and they won it. And it's pissed the Brits off ever since. All right, so let's talk a little bit about... Do I want to cover this story? Hang on just 1 second. I prepped it, but now I'm just going to buzz through it really quick and see if I want to do this. Yeah, I don't want to cover it because it covers the assassination attempt, and it was kind of a lame attempt anyway. And the guy took a big selfie of himself all geared up and ready to go, and in his hotel room. He was checked into the hotel for a couple days before the event. I'm sure he wandered all over that building. He wandered down to where the event was going to be. Probably was in the ballroom as they were setting up tables. Wow, this place is really big. It's really big. Be ashamed if somebody got in here and messed everything up. That's the exposure. I think about the possibilities if he was really capable of doing mayhem. What if he was a professional? What if he had a bomb? What if he had several bombs that dogs can't sniff out, digital C4 bombs? What if he wasn't alone? What if there were 10 guys like him and they were checked into a hotel room and they went in, put in staff uniforms and set up IEDs in this room? I mean, yes, there are a lot of what ifs. Yes, there are. But they didn't happen. Maybe they didn't happen because it was allowed to happen the way that it did. Because you got to admit, it was a great advertisement for the Trump ballroom. A great advertisement for it. You see, if we had the ballroom, none of this would happen. This would never have happened if we'd had the ballroom. Yes. And you know, when things line up like that, we scientists see that they line up just like that. And we can't ignore it. We can't say, oh, that's just a coincidence. No. We live by what's called Occam's razor. Occam's razor says if you cut away all the bullshit, all the stuff that you don't have evidence for, all the stuff that doesn't make sense, what's left is the truth. And when you have these things line up like this, not one, not two, but 5 or 10 or 15, you think to yourself, wow, really, somebody really benefited by this cheap-ass attempt. And all those shots fired, all those Secret Service guys, all those cops, and nobody hit this guy? And if you look at the video, you can't see the video of him actually being taken down, but you could see the video of the first law enforcement officials that he ran by. You remember those guys? They about pissed their pants. I mean, some fell over with a heart attack. Some, they may have been shot. I didn't see a shot fired. They just stood there with their weapons drawn, like, I've got him. Get away from him. I'll shoot him. That's not the proper way. That's not the trained way. The trained way is as soon as that guy runs by you, you are on defense. You're the safety. You run after the guy as fast as you can. And if you get shot, so be it. That's your job. They didn't move. None of them moved until after, Clint Eastwood tackled the guy. Clint Eastwood from, Line of Fire. After the guy got tackled, then they moved. Okay, it's safe now. I can look like I'm a hero. I'll run up and I'll stand on his foot. Yeah. See, these things, they just line up for me. You can't miss that stuff. You can't miss that stuff. So that's why I don't want to talk about it anymore, because there's just stuff that doesn't make sense. Wolf Blitzer was standing 5 feet away from the guy when the shooting began. 5 feet. He was just happened to be out there. Maybe he was going to the bathroom or coming back from the bathroom, because that's where the bathrooms were. We don't know why he was there. He hasn't actually come on and say, well, the reason I was out there was, really? So this wasn't like CNN filming the Butler event live, having it live with a high-speed camera. It's not like that, right? You weren't like in place because you thought, oh, I'll get the exclusive. I'll get, right down there on him. Mr. Cole, I'll get the story. Was it like that, Wolf? Was it like that? Were you there because you knew ahead of time something was going to happen? See, things line up. Things line up. All right, let's talk about Second Amendment. I know he ran faster than O.J. Simpson on the Hertz commercial. He ran pretty fast. You got to think about it. That hallway was maybe 30 feet long, if that. And if at the speed that he was running, we're talking about 2 or 3 seconds to make that distance. I'll put it this way. If you take a class in self-defense with a weapon, you take your Second Amendment training class. I'm going to get my concealed carry license. One of the things they discuss in detail with you is, when can I draw my weapon and when can I use my weapon legally without putting myself in jail? They cover that in detail, and I've been through the class and, believe me, practice this stuff religiously. This is the same rules that the police use. If you have a weapon, if the guy that's facing you has a weapon, a baseball bat, a knife, a gun, well, not a gun, but a baseball bat or a knife, and he is within 7 paces of you, which is about 21 feet. He is within 21 feet. You can draw your weapon. At that point, that's all the deadly force you can apply. You can draw your weapon and you can aim it at the person and you can say, drop your weapon. I feel in danger for my life and I will shoot you if you advance. Drop your weapon. That's all the deadly force you can apply. If he makes a move for you, you can shoot him dead. Because he can cross that distance, 21 feet, before you can pull the trigger. Just saying, they've tested it a gazillion times. By the time you aim and pull the trigger, unless you're really well trained, just ask these Secret Service guys that shot all these bullets and didn't hear diddly shit. That amount of time goes by, you just don't get an accurate shot. Unless you're a cop and you practice this over and over and over again. You draw your weapon, you fire 6 times, and 6 times you hit your target. Cops do it every day, all the time. Well, I'm not saying cops shoot their weapons every day, but you hear about police having this kind of encounter and the shooter being dead, or the guy with the knife being dead. They didn't shoot 6 rounds and miss him. They shot 6 rounds and hit him every time, even if he was behind a car door. That's practice. And you could do that. You could practice that, with your Second Amendment too. But that's how you protect yourself. And then you better have witnesses that that's exactly what happened, or some kind of camera that says, yeah, he was 10 feet away from me, grabbed the knife and started to run toward me, and I shot him dead. I was in fear for my life, or I was in fear for her life, right? 3 ways you can use your weapon. One is if you fear personal bodily harm, grievous bodily harm. Second is if someone you're with is in fear of grievous bodily harm. And the third is rape, which I guess you could call grievous bodily harm. But if you're going to be raped, they tear your clothing off and start to undress you, you can shoot them dead. Okay? These are the 3 justifiable homicides. But not everybody has that choice. Here in this country, most states, most cities, most towns, you can get a Second Amendment concealed carry permit, which allows you to carry a weapon that no one can see until you pull it out in your purse, in your belt, underneath your jacket. You don't have to wear it on the outside of your belt, like a revolver, like the Wild Wild West. You can carry concealed. But we have the right to do that in this country. First, we have the right to speak and say our peace of mind, say our piece. And the Second Amendment, not the 9th, not the 10th, not the 17th, the second, because it's needed in order to ensure that the First Amendment is not taken away. Right? That's why that Second Amendment is the second. If the people of Iran had the right to bear arms, which they don't, the regime that oppresses them would no longer be in power. I am convinced of that. Trump is convinced of that. You need to be convinced of that. And that's not a far-fetched speculation. Should we arm the public so that they can go in and take back their country? We did it in Germany. I don't have one anymore. I used to have one. But they're called the Liberator. And it was, my finger up here. It was an aluminum gun that shot one round, 145 caliber ACP. I think it came with several. It came with a cartoon. It showed you how to load it and how to shoot it. Now, was that the weapon that's going to win the war? Well, no. What it was designed to do, the cartoon and everything that went with it, they dropped them out of airplanes into these towns, was to arm the people so they could kill a German soldier and take his gun. Because he had the weapon. He had the rifle, or he had the automatic weapon. Kill the German soldier and take his weapon. And that's how a lot of these partisans worked. They used a single shot weapon, and they got close enough because the Germans assumed everybody was unarmed, but they weren't. It's a reality we can see by looking at how power works inside the Islamic Republic of Iran. When only the state has weapons, only the state has power. Same as it would be in this country, which would be a disaster. If the left was the only force in this country that had power, you can just fill in the blank. Defenseless citizens cannot rise up against a brutal regime. We can't. There was a film out called Guns and Moses, and it was a documentary about a community forced to defend itself when no one else will. We take our security seriously because we live in an age when threats to our people are no longer theoretical. They happen all the time. I don't approach this question as an abstraction. I approach it as someone who has spent years thinking about what happens when violence meets vulnerability. How many videos have you watched on Facebook and X and YouTube and everywhere of mobs beating the holy hell out of somebody on the street? 2, 3, 10 people just kicking the shit out of somebody, breaking their ribs and smashing their head in. Why? Because that person is vulnerable. If that person was armed and a couple of those people that were doing the slugging and doing the kicking took a couple rounds, they would walk away. When Iranians protest, they don't They don't face dialogue. They don't face propaganda or critique or investigation. They face bullets. 40,000 civilians gunned down in the streets. And the ones that were injured went to the hospital for a gunshot wound. And the IRGC went in the hospital, bed to bed, and shot them in the head. No survivors. No survivors. Nobody's going to tell the story. Nobody's going to do a video and get it out of the country. I just got shot in my shoulder from the IRGC for holding this sign. I'm talking about what happens when an entire population is stripped of firearms. Ask Australia. And let's be clear, this is not about Iran as a nation or a people. The Persian people have one of the great civilizations in human history, thousands and thousands of years old. It's rich in poetry, architecture, philosophy, courage. Again and again, they've showed a willingness to rise up against oppression and free themselves. The problem is that the regime that rules them now, when Iranians protest, when Persians protest, they get killed. They get gunned down. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, they're not getting paid right now because President Trump has got a blockade going and shut off the money. They're armed, they're organized, and they're loyal to the regime, and they're deployed not to protect the people, but to control them. Same as they are in China. The population in China, they're not armed. The Chinese people are not armed. Only the CCP is armed. Protesters are shot in the streets. Countless Iranians have been killed in crackdowns. Over 30,000 this year alone. Actually, it's closer to 40,000. Many more have been arrested, tortured, disappeared into prisons. Women who defy compulsory hijab laws have been beaten, imprisoned, even killed. Young athletic champions who spoke against the regime, they were executed. They were hung publicly. Think of the African-American athletes who lifted a fist on the podium after winning Olympic medals in 1968. A gesture like that in Iran means suicide by the terror police. It's not governance. This is organized terror against an unarmed population. And that last part, unarmed, it's not coincidental. It's not incidental. It is the point. Tyranny thrives where citizens have no weapons, where they are defenseless. Strip a population of its means to resist, and you don't eliminate violence. You concentrate it in the hands of the state. This is what the Democrats want to do. The Democrats want to disarm the nation so that they can do to us what the IRGC does to its people. Just listen to them on the news. They can't wait to get back in power so they can round us up just like January 6th. Put us in prison, put us in solitary confinement, turn off our podcasts, put us in retraining camps. We're not going to allow that. That's what the Second Amendment is for. We're not going to allow that. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back after this. More America Free Radio right after this.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be right back after this message.
Tune in to the Family Industrial Complex podcast here on Revolution Radio, Studio B, every Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Get fit, empowered, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
The rooster has crowed out the opening bars of a new day. You've dragged yourself out of bed. You turn on your device. You want to know what's going on in the world. But you're hungry for a topical show that serves up those breakfast headlines just that little bit differently. Do you like your early morning news the way you like your eggs over easy? Served with slathers of salsa-like sass? Do you like those first headlines of the day to deliver a punch as powerful as that first cup of joe? Join Mitchell Bupp at his breakfast table for Revolution in the Morning, where he will digest, dissect, and dismantle those new day's national and global news headlines with razor-sharp relish. Find Mitchell here at revolution.radio every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on Studio B.
Through everything, we have to remember that we have more in common than not in common. And to find this common ground, tune in to Conversations with Eagle Flower, Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio A. Because we come to this table of life to learn in the best possible way and experience this gift of life from our mutual Creator. So let's learn together and build our best future with Conversations with Eagle Flower, Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Studio A on Revolution Radio.
I will defend myself against their tyranny. Number 3 is my radio broadcast. I'm squarely in front of the public all the time, and they all know what's going on.
We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence.
Hello, my name is John Wayne, and I do a broadcast here at freedomslips.com, revolution.radio, called The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
Freedom and fear are at war.
And folks, I assure you, we are in Defense Condition 1. As we journey perilously through this paradigm that we currently reside in. And I ask that you join me every Saturday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
We shall never surrender.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Thanks for hanging in there while we took that short break. Now back to America Free Radio with host Brooks Agnew here at Revolution Radio.
All right, thank you so much, Revolution Radio, for that great station identification. We love our Revolution Radio listeners. If you want to support the network, this is the largest user-supported, listener-supported network on the planet. And we got that way because of listeners like you who take the time to go to freedomslips.org, freedomslips.org, and making a regular donation. Make it $2, $3, $4 a month. Become a patron. That's where you just give regularly. And if 100,000 of you did it, we could save the planet. Seriously, this is not advertiser-based broadcasting. This is listener-supported networks, and that's what makes it happen. All right, let's do some quick bill paying here. We're going to go to my website. Those of you listening by audio, pay close attention because we're going to go to brooksagnew.com, brooksagnew.com. Everybody that does that with us will end up at this site where it says, I'm Brooks Agnew. That's my website. Scroll down just a little bit and you'll see two blue buttons. One on the right says, get my free newsletter. That's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? I mean, it's free. It don't cost nothing. It comes out twice a week. You know that. And the other is Ivan, Roxy, Fenben, and MeBen with no prescription. We do that to beat the algorithms that try to shadow ban sites like this. Our webpage will give you access to some of these products that you know all about, but you may not know where to get them. I have people call every single day. I heard you on this. I heard you on that. I just bought ivermectin. I just bought fenbendazole. My dad has cancer. I have cancer. I'm, sick and I need help. And this is why we do it. We do it to save lives. You can get ivermectin through the site by buying the digital report from us. We send you the free samples. Also the fenbendazole 444. We don't do the 222 anymore. It's been shown that the 444 is much more effective. People just snap them in half and take them that way. And so we just cover the one dosage. The other is mebendazole. If you've got tumors and you're trying to get rid of them, mebendazole has been used for therapy of various cancers and has been shown to reduce or eliminate tumors, and it has been used for over 40 years. You didn't know about it till recently. Now you know where to get it at wholesale prices. Everything is less than $1 a tablet. Everything. Hydroxychloroquine, we have it in stock right now, and we could ship it same day. Same with the fenbendazole. If you order that, I will ship it tomorrow to you. You'll have it in 3 days. If you don't know how to use it, don't know what the dosages are, get this book, Fenbendazole and Ivermectin Protocols, a practical handbook. It's the #1 selling book in its field. We post it. We don't make any money on it. I'm just trying to help you out by getting your questions answered. True Niagen, I take it every single day, 600 milligrams. You don't have to take that much, but I do. I've been taking it for 8 years, and it just keeps me younger. It keeps my telomeres long, keeps my muscles loaded with mitochondria. That's what helps you process ATP into energy. And my doctor says I'm a perfectly healthy 45-year-old man, and this is why. True Niagen. You should always take zinc. You never get enough zinc in the GMO food and the washed out food that we have these days. I take Zima. It's a zinc, magnesium, and a vitamin B complex. It's what the athletes use. It works for me. It might work for you. It's cheap, and I have it posted on the website. And don't forget about the Insulis. This is a tincture that's made by a Betu. I use it every single day, 3 or 4 drops under the tongue. Helps me lower my A1C numbers. That's a struggle for some people. Their A1C gets up around 8, 9, 10, 11. That's percent. That's a weighted average of your blood sugar. Even though you have insulin, like me, I got right down the middle of the spec, perfect insulin numbers. But I'm insulin resistant. The insulin doesn't get used to take care of sugar. And so I take the Insulis, and it removes some of that insulin resistance, and my A1C numbers come back down to 5, 6, 7 where they're supposed to be. It's a little high, but it's not 9, 10, 11, which is what makes your doctors really nervous. And they start calling you a diabetic. Don't forget about the fluoride-free toothpaste. I use this brand, Himalaya, works for me. You get 2 tubes in the order, and it's the same price as the Aquafresh or the Colgate or Crest that you've been using, except there's no fluoride in it. So it keeps your brain and your pineal gland in perfect working condition. Okay, let's get back to it. We got stuff we need to talk about. We were talking about Iran, and we were talking about somebody asked the question, were the Persians ever armed? Yes, they were. Yes, they were. They had swords, they had spears, arrows, all that, and they kept themselves free for thousands of years. It wasn't until the IRGC came in under the rule of the mullahs in 79, and they disarmed all the people. And this is a situation that we have. It is no longer a balance of power. It is a permission structure for repression, and they can't resist. Men are just evil that way. Imagine for a moment a different Iran, not a utopia, not a country without conflict, of course, but a country in which ordinary citizens had the means to defend themselves against a regime that fires into crowds. Lots of people ask, why do we have a Second Amendment in our country? Not everybody hunts. No, that's not what it's there for. Why do we have military weapons in the hands of people? They're not military weapons. They're not military. There's no such thing as an assault rifle. And that's not why they're there. They're not there for deer hunting. They're not there for target practice. They're there to keep you over there. You stay outside of my house. You stay outside of my neighborhood. You leave us in peace, and you don't take away our right to speak or to travel or to own property or to run a business. And that's basically what it's there for. Now, we can't exactly know how history would unfold, but we do know this. We know this from history. Unarmed protests can now be crushed. Armed populations are avoided. They have to be negotiated with. You can't just walk in and start shooting because they shoot back. They shoot back. And this is the part of the conversation that makes people uncomfortable, especially in America, where the Second Amendment is often debated as though it were about a hobby or a culture or a partisan identity. And I've had this conversation on David Webb's show on national radio with cops. And I've said, you guys have to stop this no-knock raids. SWAT raids 50 to 55,000 times a year. At least it did during the Obama administration. I don't know what it does during the Trump administration, but 50,000 raids a year. No knock. They don't knock. They just bash the door in, shoot the place up, and arrest everybody. And a lot of the times, 23% of the times, it's the wrong address. For one thing, why is SWAT serving the warrants in the first place? Why doesn't the sheriff serve the warrants? Why do you send in a SWAT team to serve a warrant? It's ridiculous. SWAT teams are there for hostage situations. But I told them, guys, here's what's going to happen. You keep doing this. You keep breaking in innocent people's homes, killing or injuring their kids, killing their husbands, as it happened in Arkansas. Shot him right in the head. He lasted about 7 seconds after they bashed the door down. And people are going to start shooting back. People are going to start shooting back. You understand what I'm talking about? And they go, well, you're going to find yourself locked up if you do that. And I said, no, that's the whole idea of the Second Amendment. You stay over there. And if you want to arrest me, come and arrest me. Come and tell me what I did. Show me a warrant. Don't bust my door down and throw a flashbang in my baby's crib and break my windows down and push my wife out in the middle of the street naked at 2:00 in the morning. That's not the way it's going to happen. We are going to start shooting back. And it depends on how bad it gets. Heaven help us if Trump ever gets out of office and J.D. Vance is not in there. Heaven help us if the Democrats ever take power again, because they're coming for us. And there won't be just 1 million of us like there were in J6. There were 1 million of us. And they came after a bunch of us and put us in jail, ruined our lives. Several people died because of it. Oh, they're going to pay. Oh, yes, they're going to pay. But it still doesn't stop the oppression. You see what I'm saying? And if you shoot somebody who comes to arrest you like that, then they're just going to bring 10 more people. And if you shoot them, they'll bring 100 more. And if you shoot them, they'll bring a mech unit. There is no place in this country that can withstand that kind of firepower. You just can't. You just can't. That's what the cartels are going through right now. The Second Amendment is there to protect your rights against the government. And that's not an abstract concern. Not here and not in Iran. Tensions are escalating between the U.S. and Iran. In 3, maybe 4 days, what's going to happen is Iran cannot ship any oil. It's all blockaded. And they can't store any oil. Every tank they have is almost full. When all the tanks are full, guess what has to happen? The pumps have to stop. Well, you think, well, that's no problem. Just shut off the pumps. You got all these tanks full. When the blockade is over, when the IRGC is retired and the Iranian people come back into power and the Shah or his son or whatever, whoever, if they have elections, they can just start the pumps up again, right? No, it doesn't work that way. They can pump the stuff that's in the tanks, yes. But the pumps, the formations are all under pressure, you understand? They're injecting pressure, steam and water and other materials. They're injecting that into the ground and pushing the oil toward the holes so they can pump it out. It doesn't just sit there with a gas drive forever, okay? You have to supply the pressure to move the oil. If they shut off the pressure, the entire formation collapses. It all crumbles and caves in. Now you see what the problem is? Oh, yeah, you got an 8-inch hole in the ground that goes down, 16,000 feet. Sure, no problem. The problem is you don't have any oil going to that hole because the formation that was pressurized, it was held at bay by some liquid that they push into the ground to force the oil to the hole. That pressure has been shut off. And all those caverns, all those formations are going to crumble and collapse and fall in. That means all those wells have to be re-drilled. They have to be re-drilled horizontally. It could take a decade or more to get those formations back into production. This is the problem. And you consider that the IRGC hasn't gotten a paycheck in a couple of weeks. These soldiers are no longer going to fight. They're going to go become an entrepreneur. They're going to get a herd of goats. They're going to open a coffee shop. They're going to leave. They're going to take that uniform off and say, screw this. I'm not making any money at this anymore. Or I got 85 million Persians mad at me and I'm out here. That's what has to happen. And I think it will. But here's the issue. And maybe it's significant because the king was here and I bet President Trump took him back in a room where the press wasn't there and said, listen, this whole uranium thing, we have to have the uranium back. We got to get the uranium out of Iran. I know you guys don't want to get involved. Your NATO is all backed out. You don't have any ships down there. You don't have any men down there. We see that. But we need that uranium back. And what the king is saying is, okay. But then he's getting on the phone and he's telling the Iranians, whatever you do, you don't give up that uranium. I don't care what it costs you. I don't care where you have to hide it. You don't give back that uranium. Why? Does Britain want them to have a bomb? Who gives a shit about that anymore? They're not going to be able to do that. It's all about the uranium now. Because the Brits know, the global syndicate knows, if we get that uranium back, we're going to do a nuclide scan on it and we're going to find out what reactor it came from. And if that reactor was in Britain, if that reactor was part of Westinghouse and part of the Rosatom, Uranium One, Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Robert Mueller network that distributed that uranium. If that uranium came from the United States through that group, if that group armed Iran with the uranium, it's treason on a scale nobody has ever imagined in this country. It's treason on a scale of war against this country. Open, aiding and abetting nuclear war against this country. And it will be hell to pay. The DOJ, the Department of War, President Trump, they will leave no stone unturned. Once we know where that uranium came from, God help them all. 1,000 pounds of uranium enriched to 60%, loose like that, with a regime like the Iranians, it could go anywhere. It could go anywhere. It could be in anybody's hands. Pakistan, North Korea, it could be anywhere. We have to have it back. That's what it boils down to. And let me tell you something, Iranians, if you're listening to this, or Trump's administration, and I know you do listen because you use my words often, you have 3 days. 3 days, and you have to go in and get it. Now, there's an endless discussion about negotiations and ceasefires and all that bullshit. All we're doing now is negotiating the unconditional surrender of Iran. That's what it boils down to. No ceasefires, no peace talks. That's all gone. That's all done. We're not doing that anymore. Now we're negotiating the unconditional surrender. That's why Trump says, I have all the time in the world. The world doesn't need Iranian oil. We don't need it. Iran could go back to being a third world country full of dust. Nobody needs the Iranian oil. We got Venezuelan oil. We got U.S. oil. We could supply the world for 1,000 years. Nobody needs Iran. And it's going to become very evident by Wednesday or Thursday of next week when the pumps shut off and all those Iranian formations collapse. It's going to become very evident. By the way, reportedly, I don't know this for a fact yet, I've seen the rumors, reportedly the UAE is about to leave OPEC. If that happens, the foundation pillars of OPEC are crumbling. And that means that oil becomes a free market again, not controlled by the Middle East. Now, yes, I saw gas jump by about 50 cents a gallon this week. I'm sure you did too. But it's going to come back down. It's going to come back down. Yeah. We would go ahead and pay it, but I don't want to. I don't want to pay $70 to fill up my truck. That's bullshit. I want to get it back to $2.50. I want to get it back to 99 cents a gallon for fuel. Flippy says, don't make them make a Lego video of you, Brooks. Yeah, they probably will. That would be pretty cool. I want to do my own voice, though. My own voice for the Lego action figure. All right. That's what's going to happen in Iran. Watch very closely. I know gas is up, but if I were you this week, I'd fill up my tank. Just to be safe. Fill it up. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center. A lot of people don't think this is a big deal. It's just they're kind of letting it float away. I don't care about a bunch of lawyers, blah, blah, blah. But professionals who have experience with anti-money laundering laws, and myself, we're not shocked at all that the SPLC has been busted. The facts alleged in the indictment, we're not talking about a hearing anymore. They're not coming before some oversight committee where they can just take the fifth or say, I don't have that answer at this time. I'll have to circle back and I'm not going to answer that question. No. Indictments are before a judge and a jury. People are arrested. They have to come to trial. Yeah, they set bail, that kind of stuff. If these facts are true, and I believe they are, They appear to support charges that are unremarkable and to be expected in the global syndicate's money laundering machine. And it also means, as they begin to crack into this, that the initial people that are arrested have never been to jail before. They make lots of money. They have at least one home, at least 2 cars. You know, they make lots of money, $350,000, $450,000, $500,000 a year. They're well off, rich, you could call them. They've never been in jail. They don't know what it smells like. They've never been behind bars or with criminals 24 hours a day. And what's going to happen is they're going to get squeezed. The law enforcement or FBI or investigators or U.S. attorneys are going to go in there and say, look here, Sally, look. Stop crying, Sally. Stop crying. Stop crying. You're busted, okay? You're going to serve 25 years in jail, and you're going to lose everything. Your house, your car, your husband's going to divorce you, or your wife's going to divorce you. All the money that you made, we're going to get it back. All the money you were responsible for laundering, we're going to get it all back. Now, you could serve the whole 25 years, or you could take what's behind door number 2. Now, what's behind door number 2 is only 24 months in jail and 5 years probation. That sounds pretty easy. Matt, we could even cut that down to 6 months. But what you have to do is give us the names of the other people. That's called the squeeze. That's called not a plea deal. It's just the squeeze. We'll lower your sentence if you help us get the big boys, the bad boys. And that's where the SPLC is now had the lights turned on their operation. They made false statements to a bank. Who doesn't? Come on, who doesn't make false statements to a bank? And conspiracy to commit money laundering. Now that's a crime. And the SPLC is hinting broadly at a victimhood defense without being a left-wing organization politically targeted by a right-wing administration. Among the army of lawyers the SPLC has hired from multiple law firms, the racial justice nonprofit is now represented by the DC insider Abby Lowell, who also represented Hunter Biden. Reuters describes Lowell's boutique law firm as one of the works defending Trump targets. Of course, saying that you're just a victim of the situation, you're a victim of the Democrat Party, you're a victim of the global syndicate, cry me a river, right? Mainstream now calls the charges nakedly political, of course. Joining that chorus, Chicago Tribune, New York Times, blah, blah, blah. It's not murky here. There's no gray area here. That's why the indictments are so clear. The SPLC is accused of creating accounts at 2 banks for fake businesses that were never incorporated, and they had no employees. They're just a name of a business. They never actually conducted any real business, no business. That's pretty hard to do. I couldn't do it. Nobody I know could do it. Anyway, the Bank Secrecy Act of 1970, which was, by the way, updated after 9/11, creates extensive anti-money laundering know your customer rules. They require banks to identify new customers and be sure a business is both real and representing its activities in an honest way. I could go fill out a loan application as a business and borrow money from the bank, or I could open accounts at the bank. And I could say I have 10 employees, and I could say each one of those employees have $80,000 a year salaries and all that. But I don't have that. I could say it, but it would be fake, and it would be found out immediately. And making false statements to a bank, I'd probably end up in jail for a year. And you can read the regulations yourself. They're here. I'll link them in the newsletter. But Kevin Sullivan is a retired New York State police detective. He served on multi-jurisdictional fraud task force investigations. He's the author of an anti-money laundering guidebook for businesses, so you know how to know if that's happening to you, if you're being used to launder money. In retirement from law enforcement, he's the president of an AML training academy. An investigation into allegedly fake bank accounts, he told the Federalist he has to start with a basic question. How the heck did these businesses obtain an account in the first place? Who went into the bank and opened the account, right? Well, before anyone could begin using the bank accounts in questionable ways, Sullivan said, warning signs should have appeared at the account opening due diligence process phase. That's where they kind of check things out. See if the address is real. See if the building is there. Take a picture of the building. Go in the building. Meet the manager. Meet some of the employees. Shake hands. Hi, I'm your banker. Prospective banking customers that lack appropriate verification information, such as they never were incorporated, no bona fide employees, no actual business, they should never have been accepted as a customer by the bank. So if the allegation is correct, it's got to be one of these, right? So if you address these possibilities, the indictment specifically alleges that the bank accounts were associated with phony documents, and they were phony documents that were delivered by SPLC employees. Employee 1 and others signed these documents containing false and misleading statements for the benefit of the SPLC. The documents that were allegedly used to open the accounts would be retained by the bank. That's what they do when I apply. When I apply, I have to take my articles of incorporation. I have to take all that stuff, my ID, my social security number, the tax ID number of the company, all that stuff. And the regulators routinely visit the banks to check on their compliance with Know Your Customer laws. But this is one of the other shoes that might drop in this whole thing, because the regulators also had to be complicit. If the paperwork retained by the bank would identify the individual who allegedly opened the accounts on behalf of the SPLC, 100% absolutely positively, if prosecutors have accurately described the activity alleged in the indictment, those individuals are going to be arrested. They're going to be arrested and they're going to be tried and they're going to be convicted because their signature, their fingerprints, their picture, everything is on it. Some human being faked those documents. And opening a bank account for a fake business using fraudulent documents is a crime. It's punishable by about 10 years in prison. The Know Your Customer expectation goes even deeper than that. A bank is supposed to know its customers. Maybe not by name when you walk into the bank, right? Like, oh, hey, Brooks, how you doing? But they're also supposed to have a sense of the customers and their business. A business account should have a history of transactions that look like the kind of transactions that the type of business would be expected to do. I do transactions every single day. They're all about the same size. They're all different customers from all over the country, all over the world. And it is a 5-year-long now track record of doing regular business. A business identifying itself to its bank as a single small convenience store probably shouldn't execute a bunch of 7-figure transactions. Oh yeah, we sold $3 million worth of Twinkies today. See, that's money laundering. A cash flow at a small photography studio should look like the cash flow at a small photography studio. There shouldn't be Ferraris. There shouldn't be, $400,000 purchases of chemicals, right? Electronically, every bank has at least some minimum software that looks for these anomalies. Most of the places that I've seen use a piece of software called PeopleSoft or something like that. And these kinds of patterns pop up, right away. The Bureau of the Treasury, FinCEN, evaluates suspicious activity reports and then passes on significant reports to regulators and law enforcement agencies, and the Democrats are loaded with this stuff, these suspicious activity reports. So that's basically the first question that was asked. Like, why did you open these businesses? Why did you open these accounts for these businesses? And the indictment's pretty clear. And that's why the grand jury said, yes, there's enough evidence here to go to trial. Now, the strange thing about the SPLC is the very organizations, the very, let's call them ideologies that they say they fought, racism and anti-Semitism and, all this stuff. The Southern Poverty Law Center's 100 years old. They were actually funding those organizations. They were funding the KKK. They were funding with large amounts of money the very organizations that they publicly said they were fighting. This is really going to get stinky. In court, they were first represented by a lawyer whose name was William Athanas. Athanas is a lawyer, and he specializes in white-collar crime, who divides his practice between Birmingham and District of Columbia. This is a high-dollar guy. And he was asked this question. I would ask the question almost exactly the same way. Does the SPLC agree that it opened bank accounts for fictitious businesses that were never incorporated, had no bona fide employees, and conducted no actual business? Or does the SPLC dispute that claim? Athanas had nothing to say. He had nothing to say. And this is how the daycare fraud does it. This is how the hospice care fraud does it. They learned it from the SPLC. We are witnessing the demise of the global syndicate's dark stream of human and drug trafficking blood money. And I believe it's going to affect the 2026 midterm elections. We will follow up on it, but I'm pretty sure that I'm right. All right, so now what's going on at the Fed? Everybody's worried about this. My son's trying to buy a house, and he owns a home. He wants to sell the home and move up, right, to a different house. And interest rates are crazy. The down payments are 30%. Who has $150,000 laying around? Huh? Who has $150,000 laying around to make a down payment on a house? Nobody. Nobody has that kind of money. And so what's happened is new home sales are stagnating, and it's primarily because of the Fed. We kind of thought that there might be light at the end of the tunnel, right? Because Jerome Powell's term is about up. I think it's the 15th of May or something like that. He's supposed to step down. So today, Mr. Powell, who's master of the universe when it comes to interest rates in the United States, today he said he's going to remain on the Fed's Board of Governors after stepping down from the top spot on May 15th. This has never happened before, ever. No Fed chairman has hung around on the board. They all, go off into the wild blue yonder and count their money and go fishing and golfing for the rest of their life. They don't do this. Of course, he's under now criminal investigation by the U.S. attorney. That would be Judge Janine, because he's about $1 billion over budget, at least, on the renovations of the Federal Reserve building, and it isn't anywhere close to being done. He said, I plan to keep a low profile as a governor. There's only ever one chair. When Kevin Warsh is confirmed and sworn in, he will be that chair. Right, but then you have a board of governors that can vote against him. Powell said his decision to stay on the board after his term as chair ends on May 15th will be guided by institutional concerns. Yeah, I want to make sure my ass is covered because I don't want this investigation to happen when I'm not there. My decisions on these matters will continue to be guided entirely by what I believe is the best interest of the institution and the people we serve. Right. I'll leave when I think it's appropriate. The move would make Powell the first Fed chair since 1948 to remain as a governor after stepping down. A central factor, Powell indicated, is what he described as legal pressure on the Fed. My concern is really about the series of legal attacks on the Fed, which threaten our ability to conduct monetary policy without considering political factors. What do you mean without considering political factors? Your whole management of monetary policy is a political factor. Powell was referring to a Justice Department probe into his conduct that has been dropped, but it is going to be reopened, I predict. Yes. Yeah, I get it, Flippy 2. He's Ruby 2, we call him, but Rubio 2. He said, this has nothing whatsoever to do with verbal criticism by elected officials, Trump. I've never suggested that such verbal criticism is a problem. These legal actions by the administration are unprecedented in our 113-year history. I worry that these attacks are battering the institution and putting at risk the ability to conduct monetary policy without taking into consideration political factors. What a lie. Every single thing the Fed has done since Biden came in office has been a political factor. What they want to do is they want to stifle the Trump economy. If they could get interest rates back down to where they're supposed to be, 1 or 2% or even 0, why should we be paying interest on money that we have to borrow to run the government? Why do we need to borrow money in the first place to run the government? Why can't we stay within our budget? Why is the Fed spending over $1 billion to remodel a building that should have only taken maybe $25 million? Where's all that money going? Who's getting that money? Who's skimming that money? You see, these money laundering projects like this and Planned Parenthood and Act Blue, they're all designed to generate money to pay for the down ballot races in the Democrat Party. Those people don't raise money. They don't go out in their constituency and raise money. Give me anybody in the chat room know this answer to this question, because I don't know the answer, and I don't know anybody who does know the answer. Where the holy hell is Maxine Waters? I'm asking for proof of life here. We have not heard her flapping her jaws or flipping her wig for 3 months. Jamie Raskin and others are casting her votes for her. They're sharing the responsibility of casting her votes for her in Congress. Where is Maxine Waters? Anybody in the chat room know? Has anybody seen her? We have a pretty big chat room out there. Several hundred people, several thousand people get to listen to this. I'm putting it out there. Does anybody know where Maxine Waters is? Oh, you think Maxine Waters is counting her money? Maybe. I think it's much more likely that Maxine Waters is in a nursing home somewhere. Just like the woman in Texas. Hadn't seen her in 6 months in Congress. Anybody seen her? She hasn't been in town. No, but so-and-so's been casting her votes for her, so everything's okay. No, wait. I mean, like, she's a congresswoman. She's supposed to be here representing her people. She was in a nursing home. She was an invalid. She couldn't even speak. She'd had a stroke. She was in a nursing home. Yeah. And truth be told, about half the Democrat Party is that way. And not a small amount of the Republican Party is that way. Okay. Good one, Mark. He says James Brown wanted his wig back. Whatever. Come on. All right. I think when Mr. Warsh gets in, just my prediction now, it's almost May 1st now. May 1st, I'm going to be jumping on my motorcycle and riding over to Maggie Valley. It's about 100 miles from here. Big bike rally. Thousands of motorcycles going to be there. And I'm going to be going to the museum, which is called Wheels in Time. It's the largest collection of antique Harley-Davidson motorcycles in the world. Very cool place. My son's been there a couple times. He said, Dad, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. So I'm riding my motorcycle over there to Maggie Valley on Friday. I'm going to bomb around on Saturday. It's supposed to rain for a couple of hours, so I won't be riding. But make my way around to a lot of the events. And then Sunday afternoon, I'm going to ride back in time for the program Sunday night. It's my birthday month, okay? So it's my birthday present to me, all right? You've been a good boy for 11 months. You deserve a birthday present. This is it. So I'm doing it. So the 15th of May, Mr. Warsh he's going to be confirmed here shortly. Mr. Warsh is going to take over as the Fed chair. My prediction is that we are going to see an immediate drop of maybe 50 to 100 basis points in the interest rate. It's got to happen. It's got to happen. And of course, if it gets a little bit more aggressive and it's 200 or 250 basis points, I'm totally down with that. But here's what's going to happen. Interest rates drop from where they are right now, which is about, 6.75%. They get back down in the 4.1, 3.75 range for home mortgages. And what you're going to see is an avalanche, an absolute freaking avalanche of refinances, which the loan officers out there are just eating that up. They cannot wait. These people are going to be making commissions like crazy, refinancing these 6 and 7 and 8% loans. I'm probably refinance my loan on this estate that I just built. I'm sitting at, 6.25%. But I promise, if it gets down to 4%, I'm refinancing. I know I've only had the loan for 6 months. I don't care. I'll pay the points. I'll get it down because it'll lower my house payment by $300 or $400 a month. That's not chicken scratch. That's good stuff. I think everybody's going to do it too because you know what? I am America. Whatever I do is what everybody else is going to do. Whatever I think is the best song, everybody thinks is the best song. Whatever I think is the best food or the best restaurant or the best car, everybody thinks that. I'm just typical. I'm tapped into the typicalness of America. And I think that's what's going to happen. Yes, thank you, Lawrence. Safe travels on that Harley. I will be armed. I'm okay there, but it's no protection against a four-wheeler. You have to keep your eyes open. I stay in the fast lane, not the slow lane, because there's a lot less action in the fast lane. You can hug that yellow line and go down the freeway at 70 or 80 miles an hour, and you can stay away from cars pretty easy. If you're in the middle lane, you have cars on both sides. If you're in the far right lane, the slow lane, you have merging traffic in and off, and that's a disaster for a motorcycle. We always ride in the fast lane. And that way you have the emergency lane if anything happens. Car has a blowout in front of you or whatever, you can go around it. Yeah, the museum is awesome, JJ Nevada. I've seen a lot of videos on it. I will post pictures on Facebook. Those of you that follow me on Facebook, it's Brooks Agnew. If you follow me on X, it's Agnew Brooks because X canceled my X account. I was too politically controversial, so they terminated my account and never gave it back to me. In case you're listening, X, it'd be nice to have all those listeners, all those subscribers back. But I don't worry about the numbers of subscribers. It doesn't bother me a bit because my friends follow me, and that's all that matters anyway. I'm not trying to get to new people. Yeah, 4.5 is a respectable rate. I'd like to see it 4.5, 4.2. I think it's doable. It's totally doable. People are making money. The economy's doing great. There's no inflation. It would be great. Well, I don't care. The birthstone of the month of April is a diamond. So what? Mine's an emerald. Yeah, and I don't have a green motorcycle. It's kind of metallic deep purple. The sun has to hit it just right and you can see the purple. Otherwise, it just looks black. Don't buy a house built after 2019 from builders. Why? The building materials are good. Yeah, there's no reason to Tonka Dave not to buy a house built after 2019. You really want to make equity, build your own house. Of course, that's harder to do these days. Not everybody has the skills that I have. They have to go hire a general contractor, and the general contractor is going to eat them up 50 grand. That's true. Emeralds are more rare than diamonds. Not as valuable, but more rare, for sure. They're known as a semi-precious stone, I guess. All right, let's see. Did I cover everything I wanted to cover? Yes, I did. We have about 10 minutes left. Any questions out there at all? Let me check Foxhole really quick. Drilling mud is a bentonite type clay. I carried many 50-pound sacks up the platform. That's how you close a well. The well, yes, but a lot of these wells use mud if they're very high pressure wells, because you have to keep this stuff under pressure, otherwise it blows out. But I think the wells in Iran have been around for a long, long time, 20, 30 years. They haven't really drilled any new wells. They're drilling the old formations. But what they do drill is called injection wells. And then they set up injection pumps on those wells. And they pump seawater down into those wells to force the oil from 2, 3, 4 miles away, force the oil into the hole where they have the pump or where they have the pipeline. So the pressure that makes the oil come to the top is artificial. And that artificial pressure that's injected into that formation miles away is what's supporting the formation. And if they take away that pressure, the formation will collapse. It will cave in, and you can't just restart the well. It just doesn't work that way. You have to re-drill horizontally back into the formation to create new oil flows. And that takes time. Horizontal drilling is slow, baby. First of all, you got to get down to depth, and then you have to turn the drill, make the drill go horizontal, and you can drill for a quarter of a mile or more horizontally back into the formation, and then you can pressurize that and fracture that formation where the oil will seep into that hole and then to the pump, and you can bring it to the surface. That's why they have a problem. That's why they're saying that the entire petroleum manufacturing network will collapse in Iran if they have to shut the pumps off. Let's see here. Members of Congress should be required to state and explain leaves of absences, voting in person only unless by a doctor's exclusion. It sounds good. I would like that, but it's actually pretty lax. The operation of a congressional office for a congressman in Washington is pretty highly regulated. When you're in the Capitol building, the only thing you can do is vote. You can vote, you can meet with constituents, stuff like that, but you cannot fundraise. You cannot raise money in the Congress building. You have to go across the street to the other buildings. The building I can think of right now is the Rayburn building. There are two other buildings. There's an older building that's for freshmen. There's the Rayburn building, which has offices, but they're small. And then there's a premium building. I don't remember the name of that building either. That's for the senior congressmen, ones that have been there 10, 12, 15 terms. You have to get across there, and that's where you can dial for dollars. That's where you can pick up the phone and call back to your constituency and say, hey, can you send us another $20,000, another $50,000, whatever. And they're constantly doing that. They're constantly dialing for dollars. Because think about it. You run an election, and I almost got talked into running here in North Carolina. You're talking about raising and spending $1 million. That's just to get elected, and you'd have to go against nobody. You'd have to go either to an unopposed district or a district where you had a pretty good chance of winning. And it probably is not one you live in right now. Like here in this area, maybe my name is pretty well known. But if I were to run, they would send me way over to eastern North Carolina up in the boonies. Nobody knows me from Adam. So I'd have to spend about $1 million on signs and meetings and offices and everything to get elected up there. So then I get elected, I'm only going to make $174,000 a year, which is not enough to pay back $1 million. Now you don't have to pay back campaign funds, but here's what you realize. Okay, fine. I get elected in November. I'm seated in January. Guess what I have to do in 16 months? I have to run again. I got to raise more money because I got to run again. And this time I got to run maybe against somebody. You don't know. That's the whole point. You never get out of fundraising mode as a congressman. So what I proposed in my book, Alienated Nation, was to change the term of Congress. It has been 2 years since the Constitution was written because it was a burden. It was a burden. They were farmers. They were loggers. They were lawyers. They were, engineers that lived in their hometown. And it was a burden to get on a horse or get on a train or walk and make your way to Washington for a part-time job to make laws to run the country. And so they said, okay, well, 2 years, it won't be that much of a burden. People can come for 2 seasons and then go home. It's been that way ever since. But now Congress is a full-time job. And most of that job is raising money to run again in 16 months after you get, after they seat the Congress in January, you've got to run again. So changing the term to 4 years and then changing the number of terms that they could run to 12. So they can only run for 12 years, which means you're elected and you can get reelected 2 more times and you're out. That's it, 12 years. That's long enough for anybody, right? You can find another congressman. You can find another lawmaker in your state. I'm sure there are several. Because it's a burden, right? $174,000 a year. We don't want them there for 36 years and have them return home with $50, $80, $100 million. That's not the point. The point is to make laws to represent their constituency in Washington. And the other thing would be to repeal the 17th Amendment. The 17th Amendment is what allowed the Senate to run for election at large. We would repeal that and make the Senate go back to running for election in the state legislature. And the state legislature would appoint that senator. And that senator would be beholden to the state legislature, not the good old boys club of senators. And they wouldn't raise their own money to run for election. And they wouldn't be able to draw money from foreign countries or from foreign investors in other states. None of that would be required. It would take billions and billions of dollars out of the election process. And I think clean up everything. Then the states would have their representative in Washington taking care of their 1/50th of the national budget. Just saying, these are 2 simple things that could be done to correct a lot of nastiness that's going on in Washington. This is America Free Radio. My name is Brooks Agnew. You've been my guest. I've been your host for the last 2 hours. Thank you so much for being part of the program. And we will be back on Sunday night at 8 o'clock after I get back from Maggie Valley. Peace, Earth Explorers. Now go and do great things and be good to one another, right? We'll see you.
Thank you for listening to Revolution